Check out the table that we created using our casting epoxy and a scrap piece of redwood. In this video, we're going to show you how we use this old throwaway piece of redwood and turn it into a fantastic showpiece. We're going to show you how we flattened it, how we cut it to create 90-degree edges, how we sealed it, how we poured our casting epoxy, and much more. We mixed 2 of our metallic powders to create a custom color that was perfect for this project. Woodworking with epoxy is amazing. In this video, we're going to show you all the tips, tools, and tricks that we use to create outstanding projects every time. We're going to show you how we prep and pour, how we seal and squeegee, and how we torch and chop. Our epoxy is easy to use and eco-friendly. It's great for do-it-yourselfers and weekend warriors. Contractors love it, and the clarity is second to none. Take your next woodworking project to the next level. Visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. Stay tuned and enjoy the video.
Our epoxy rocks! Stone Coat Countertops!
Remember, when you subscribe to our channel, click on the red subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell so you get notified every time we have a new video. Thanks again. Our challenge with this unique piece of wood was quite interesting. We considered multiple different ways to go about this project, but our solution that we came up with, I think you're gonna like. After getting the piece of wood secured to our table, the first step was to simply use our router jig and get everything flat. Now you can see the one end here had a high point, so we're just gonna lower our router jig step by step so we don't take off too much meat at a time, but we're using our 3-inch surface planing router bit to go through step by step and plane this piece of wood down. Each pass of the router revealed the true character of this project. It looked grungy and grimy on the surface, but as we opened it up, goodness gracious, I got excited. After we flatten the top surface of this project, we're going to flip it over and do the same thing to the bottom. Just be sure to secure the project down so that as we run our router over the surface, it stays put nice and steady. You always want rigidity when using tooling. After using the router jig, you'll have small ridges left from your router bit, so I'm going to use a 50 grit metal sanding disc and simply remove those ridges with ease. Now it's time to map out this project and see where I'm going to make my cuts. And the whole key here was to find a spot in this project to do a 90-degree cut, and that's what we were tracing out. I'm also going to lay down some foam so that as I plunge cut through this, I don't cut into my table surface. After I make my first cut, I'll trace a new line at a 90-degree to this cut so I have a nice corner to start with. At this point in the project, this is where art and function really meet up. This is where you get to choose where the cuts are going to happen and what piece is going to be used in the project and what won't work. Really, you get to decide how big this is going to be, and you got to kind of be Nostradamus a little bit. You got to kind of vision what it's going to look like as a finished product and what your goal is. And here I'm just making straight cuts where I'm going to have the ends and edges of my table, and the rest is going to be free formed. I can't wait for you to see this. I wasn't real satisfied with the end grain that was exposed on that initial cut, so I'll trim a little bit more and make sure I like that just a little bit better. After that, I'm going to slide these pieces together, and you can really start to see where that epoxy is going to fill in and get a feel for this project. Using our Craig pocket jig and our step bit, we're going to make some pocket holes in some pieces that we've already cut so that we can have a dam to really hold this project together. It's also going to stop any leaks of the epoxy, and this is a surefire way to hold these pieces down where they won't come loose during the pouring process. We're going to start with a sheet of 3/4 inch melamine. We're also going to use coarse thread Craig screw so it attaches to this melamine very strong. I really like the larger head and the square drive on the Craig screws. They attach and don't let go very easily. We're simply going to pre-fill our screws, and then we'll attach this to the melamine so that it gives us a backstop to push our project against. We'll simply cut our pieces to size as we go around the perimeter of our project. We're using a T-square to make sure everything stays square so that our finished result looks professional. After I have everything mocked up, we'll blow the dust out, and I'm going to use some tyvek tape so that we don't have any leaks between the seam of our wood, our plywood that we've screwed down, and the melamine. Tyvek tape is a real good insurance policy against leaks. we're going to simply apply Tyvek tape to the inside of our form as well as the outside. Now that our form's assembled, we'll blow the dust out just one final time. Notice here I'm also going to apply Tyvek tape in the corners so I don't have any leaks at my corners. It's better to be safe than sorry, and this is a really good method that you have just tons of fun during the pouring process. We're going to remove the dust so we can apply Tyvek tape to the outside of our form. Then it's time to seal the edges of our project so it doesn't leak air into the casting epoxy. For sealing the edges, we use our product called Quick Coat. This dries in about 2 to 3 hours. It doesn't hold up your project timeline, and it's really easy to apply. We're just going to do a 1-to-1 ratio. We'll mix that up, and we're going to brush that on the edges. This prevents air from leaking out into your finished casting epoxy coat, and it just gives you a better overall experience. You have about 15 minutes to work with the Quick Coat, so don't mix up too much, but you don't need to be in a rush. We're going to use a torch to torch out any air that was entrained during the mixing process. That'll clear this product right up, and it starts to reveal the true beauty of this wood. So this is our super cast. On a project like this, you don't want to have to wait days and days to do layers and layers. So this has been formulated to be poured super thick. Super cast, right? So we're gonna mix this up. This is just under 2 inches. We're gonna pour this whole thing with one pour. We're gonna show you how that reacts. We're gonna add our pigments. We're gonna add most of it with our Purple Mountain. This is called Violet Pearl Metallic. So this has like a purple iridescence to it. Ooh, can you see that purple coming out? So Mitch actually tested this purple with the Purple Mountain metallic, and you said you liked it.
I liked it. It made like a purple marble, and it's going to look beautiful in that redwood.
It really refracts. So that's what I like about this particular metallic, is it refracts that light and makes it almost, you know, two-tone. Makes it magical, man.
I think that sounds great. Oh, this color is just gorgeous.
How easy does that mix?
Oh, it's so great. It's beautiful. Oh my goodness.
All right, here we go. We're going to mix our super cast using a paint stick for about 10 minutes so we don't entrain excess air. We're going to fill this entire cast in one pour, and how we're going to do that is torch the bubbles out every 1/4 inch. We'll pour enough material to fill about a 1/4 inch in our form, we'll torch out the bubbles, and we'll proceed until the entire project is full. We're going to get a unique one-of-a-kind color on this project because we're mixing 2 of our different metallic powders. Remember, as you're pouring, you're going to stop about every 1/4 inch and torch those bubbles out. You know, we suggest mixing this for like 10 minutes. That doesn't hurt, and you got all the time you need to do that. It's not heating up. This product is designed to be poured very thick. Our first bucket we had mixed with our Purple Mountain Metallic. Our second bucket is with Violet Purple. The 2 of these combined are going to create a beautiful look. Our supercast is specially designed to be able to be poured very thick in one coat. Our other products are only designed to be about 1/8 of an inch per coat. It's fun watching our project evolve. If you want to create more dynamic looks, you can come every so often and move those colors around to get a beautiful outcome. We'll see what it does just mixing those colors together. Goodness, good night. It's important to understand that with our supercast, you can come back and play with this with the paint stick during the curing process. Depending on how far along you are in that curing process will determine how much effects are really retained in what you do with that paint stick. It's fun to play with this timing. Every project's going to be unique.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
It's alive!
I love it.
We needed a little bit more product to fill our project all the way to the top, so we mixed up some more and we didn't tint it with metallic. It gave an entirely new effect, which was really amazing. We're going to let our supercast cure in a warm room for about 24 hours. We have about 1/8 of an inch to go before we're flush with our redwood, so we're going to fill this with our normal stone coat countertop epoxy because it's so shallow. As our supercast cures, it's going to tighten up and shrink a little bit in that form. You can account for this by overfilling your project and sanding it back flush after it's set up. After this coat, we're going to use our slab jig to get all the excess epoxy off back to raw wood so we're ready to do our final coats. We're using a blue shop rag here to wipe any excess dust. Get that off the surface and then you're ready to pour your normal stone coat countertop epoxy right over that sanded supercast. I really like the depth that you get by pouring clear over that tinted metallic surface underneath. Our tyvek tape did an excellent job creating a really good form. We didn't have any leaks, so we weren't wasting material as we went. I'll finish filling our project to the top and then we'll use our propane torch to pop the bubbles. We'll do this 3 times so you get a crystal clear surface. Wait a few minutes between each time you torch it to let the excess air come to the surface. Be sure to scan the surface and remove any debris that may have fallen in that epoxy.
That's sweet, bro.
I'll let our project dry overnight before removing it from the form. I should have used tyvek tape under the entire project because I had a heck of a time getting it off that melamine.
I just took this form off. It's stuck to the melamine like you wouldn't believe. Use tyvek tape. I didn't have a good experience with our casting epoxy directly on melamine.
That was a good learning experience and test for me, but now I got to get this hunk of melamine that stuck to my project off. So I'm going to use my 50 grit metal sanding disc. I'll use a hammer and chisel and I'll just get rid of this excess melamine. It's no big deal. In past casting projects, I've used tyvek tape on the entire bottom surface of my forms to ensure a clean release. I'll do that again next time because I didn't have a good experience going directly over the substrate with our supercast. It bonded even to that melamine. Some folks like to use a mold release spray. These contain silicone, so if you decide to go that route, be sure it's dry before you introduce the epoxy into your form. Now that we have the bottom of our project nice and flat again, we're going to flip it over and we're going to run the slab jig over the surface one more time. We'll use our router and sliding slab jig setup to remove the top 1/16 of an inch from this project. This goes a lot faster than sanding. We're also going to make sure this project is rigid by screwing down those support blocks so nothing moves while using our router. When routering over dry epoxy, I recommend using a bit that has 4 teeth as opposed to 2. This creates a cleaner finish. By moving my router at a nice steady pace, I'm going to get a very clean finish. The slab jig works great making our projects nice and flat. Now that our surface is back to the raw wood, we're going to remove any of those router marks with the 50 grit metal sanding disc. We're using an attachment on our grinder that's allowing our sanding disc to ride flush. To find all the tools, products, and colors that we use to create this project, just follow the arrow. We've provided all the links right there. To clean up the edges and perimeter of our project, we'll use our table saw to make short work of this. On a larger project, I'd use my handheld skill saw, but this is small enough to run through the table saw. Next, we'll remove our router and saw marks using our random orbital sander. We're going to work our way through 60 grit all the way up to 220 grit on our different levels of sanding discs. Our table saw set us up for really clean edges, but to finish off that factory look, we're going to use our random orbital sander to be sure and remove any of those saw marks. As we sand the edges and the surface of our project, we're about prepared for the next step. We're going to use our trim router to create very nice looking edges. We'll use a 1/4 inch roundover bit on the top of the edge and a 1/8 inch roundover bit on the bottom section of our edge. Our sanded edges are true and straight, so the bearing on our router bit will follow these edges and create a very straight, perfect looking edge. To do the bottom section of our edge, we're going to use our smaller router bit. This is a 1/8 inch roundover bit, and this will finish up the routering on our edges. We'll use our 220 grit sanding disc to finish everything off to prepare for our seal coats. We're going to do this one final time to remove any marks that may have been left by running the router on the surface. I'm going to hand sand the roundover sections of our edges as well as the corners so that we get nice smooth transitions without router marks. It's now time to seal our project. We're going to use our product called Quick Coat, which has a 15-minute working time. We'll mix the Quick Coat at a 1:1 ratio for about 2 minutes. We're going to use a shower squeegee to spread the material. All you need is about 1 ounce per square foot when you're doing a seal coat. The Quick Coat is white at this point because it still contains air from the mixing process. We're going to use the shower squeegee. We'll spread the epoxy nice and thin, and then we'll use a torch to remove the excess air bubbles. Also, use your gloved hand and rub those edges to create a seal coat along the edges as well. Woodworking with epoxy requires multiple thin seal coats before proceeding to your thick flood coat. The reason we do this is to seal the wood so it doesn't leak air into your final flood coat. By sweeping the propane torch across the surface, this will remove those excess air bubbles. We're going to do multiple passes so that all the air has an opportunity to come out. Any little divots or pits in the surface, I'm using my gloved hand to spread the epoxy so I don't have any pools or deep sections of this Quick Coat. Don't leave your propane torch in one spot for too long. Keep it moving along the surface. Do multiple passes and this will clear that epoxy up beautifully. I'm really working this material into the wood. I don't want any excess epoxy with air in it left on the surface. I'm rubbing any areas that may still have a little air, torching that out so that I get a beautiful finish, setting me up for the next step. Don't worry, your seal coats aren't going to look perfect. They're going to be bumpy and wavy and have dry and wet spots. That's okay. Each seal coat will look better and better as you go. After about 3 hours, our Quick Coat is ready to sand. We'll use 220 grit to rough this up and prepare for our second seal coat. On large woodworking projects like conference tables, we're going to use our normal stone coat countertop epoxy because we need a longer working time to do each seal coat. We'll finish prepping the surface by wiping the excess dust with our shop rags, and then we're ready to mix up our epoxy. Remember, on each seal coat you only need about 1 ounce per square foot. We'll mix that up at a 1:1 ratio. We'll mix it for about 2 minutes and we'll spread that using a normal shower squeegee. Remember, the smaller the amount of epoxy that you're mixing up, the more air you're going to entrain simply because of our mixing process. That's okay. We're going to use our shower squeegee to spread the material nice and thin, and the propane torch will remove any excess air left in that epoxy. Remember, just like the first seal coat, we're going to use our gloved hand to apply epoxy to the edges of our project. We're going to use the same propane torch and sweeping motions to remove the excess air out of the epoxy. We'll do this multiple times so that the epoxy is nice and clear. Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy really makes natural wood glow, and be careful with that torch. Be sure to let this second seal coat dry before moving on to the next step. We're now ready for our third seal coat. Our friends Erica and Jeff, they have a YouTube channel called Artists Till Death. They're in our shop, they saw this woodworking project and they wanted to see it finished up. So they're helping us out. Jeff has sanded the surface with 220 grit, he's wiped the excess dust, and we're ready for our third seal coat. We had another project going on at the same time, so we mixed up a little extra material on this particular pour, but again, you only need 1 ounce per square foot when you're doing a seal coat. We're going to use our shower squeegee and spread that material. After that, we'll use our gloved hand and we'll treat those edges. Because this is our third seal coat, everything's looking more uniform. There's not light and dark spots. Everything's coated very evenly, and we're getting ready for that final flood coat. You wouldn't want to jump into that flood coat at first, get it all sealed, and you're going to get beautiful results at the end. Many slabs of natural wood that we work on have bug holes or imperfections that need to be filled before moving on to a final flood coat. We're going to show you the products and steps that we use before moving on to that flood coat right now. We sand the surface with 220 grit to create a mechanical bond. We sand our edges smooth, removing any high points so that we get better final results. Be sure to remove any excess dust. Now that our surface is sanded and clean, we can pick out the perfect color from our assortment pack of our easy fill burn-in sticks. I really like these fill sticks because these stubborn bug holes will really never get sealed. You'll be fighting them over and over again. So this is a real good way to cheat. Fill them up and you'll never know that you filled them when you match the color just right. I chose dark walnut as my finished color. I'm going to heat this up using our propane torch, and I'm just going to color it in like a coloring crayon. Don't worry, if you make a mess, that's no problem. We're going to clean that up in a second. These burn-in sticks only take seconds to set up. So as that's happening, I'm going to push that down into that bug hole, really create a nice seal. If you need a little bit more, just heat the tip of your burn-in stick up and make sure it's flush or at least a little higher than that hole actually is. We're going to use a razor blade and come back and scrape the excess off, so be sure to fill it in all the way. Removing the excess burn-in stick from the surface is simple. We're going to use a straight edge razor blade. We'll reheat that burn-in stick with the propane torch, and using multiple passes, we'll simply scrape it off the surface. We'll repeat this process for any of the stubborn pits and bug holes that are left after those seal coats. Once all the bug holes are filled and flushed, we're ready for the next step. We're going to use our random orbital sander. We'll use 220 grit sandpaper. We'll remove any of those marks caused by that straight edge razor blade, and then we're ready to flood coat this project. Our good friend Paul from Paul's Toolbox is going to join us on this flood coat and watch this project come to life. Hey guys, welcome to Stone Coat Countertops. Paul from Louisiana. What's up, man?
Oh man, nice out here.
You having fun?
I'm having a great time. We've had fun all day long with projects.
So this one, it's already been sealed 3 times.
And sanded, right?
It's already had the casting done. So instead of using the squeegee, we're going to go to the trowel. And then, did you like using that trowel earlier today?
I like this. I use just a cheap trowel from Home Depot.
Sure.
When you showed me this, explain to them how you have the right angle on here to show you what angle you need to work with. And you set it up like this. That's telling you when you do it this way, that's the angle you want.
So I'm going to put this out. Now, again, that's milky. But we're going to torch this crystal clear. Let me put a little bit more and we'll scrape the excess off.
You got it. You want to trowel it?
I'll do half, you do half. Okay. No, you got the whole thing. You're almost done, man. You're a pro. Yeah. So I'm going to pull all those brushes, pull all the bristles,
wet it up,
and then I'm going to start chopping this out. See all those lines? We're going to get rid of those, and then we're going to torch this thing. And that's when it really starts to become
popping
clear.
In. Man, this is beautiful.
I could do this all day, man. You're just, it's like we're 2 little kids just playing, man.
I'm like a kid in a candy store. This and tools and all, that's it. That's me.
And you're going to come to the Artisan Summit. If you guys haven't heard about the Artisan Summit, it's going to be next year, April 3rd and 4th. It's going to be in Las Vegas. We're going to be at the Westgate, and you're going to talk about your journey and kind of how you were on QVC, you've invented tools, you're a firefighter, you've taken your craft, turned it into cash by doing the different side hustles you've done, and I just think I think your story's inspiring. That's why I'm just so excited to have you there, man.
Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good.
Now I'll get the torch out and we'll start clearing this thing up.
It just comes like a wave. Clarity comes in.
And then one thing that you don't want to do is it's not perfect yet. We'll let that sit for a minute. Let it kind of do its thing. That air's going to rise, and then you can come back in a few more minutes. When we keep hitting this thing will clear out so well for us. All right, we'll let that sit. Let's start our casting project.
Okay guys, let's sand the drips off the bottom of this project and we'll install the legs right now.
Visit stonecoatcountertops.com to see all the products used in this video.
Epoxy rocks, Stone Coat Countertops.
Hey, visit us anytime at stonecoatcountertops.com. Call anytime for free project support. And until next time from Stone Coat Countertops, you got this. We'll see you soon.